Welcome to the Solera VisionStart webinar DeepSee Introduction and Demo. My name is Alan Hall with Solera Networks. We'll be joined later on in the presentation by Ajay Ugadala, who will provide us with a quick demo of Solera DeepSee. I would also like to point out just a little bit of housekeeping items. Feel free to ask any questions in the question panel on the right. We'll try to address those, as many of those as we can, at the end of the webinar. And with that, let's get started. First of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about kind of the threat landscape. I think we're all very familiar with kind of what we call these three actors in when it comes to cyber attacks and those actors that we really have to defend against. Hacktivists, they're obviously out to further some ideology or cause. They're not particularly after your money, but they're very, very active, and we're seeing more and more of them. Cyber criminals, it's obvious what their motives are. They're financially motivated. They want your data. They want to basically turn that into some type of a financial gain, and they're going to use various methods, DDoS, APTs, defacement, so forth, to maybe even hold your site for ransom. And over on the right here, we see state-sponsored actors that we are seeing, again, more and more of, and especially with some of the recent news that we've seen, the Mandiant report and so forth, pinpointing to a particular group of the People's Republic Army in China and so forth. But they're nationalistically motivated and are looking for data to gain a political advantage of some sort. But at the end of the day, we still have to defend against these three threat actors, if you will, and prevent the bad stuff from getting into our network, and ultimately protecting the good stuff and making sure that it's not leaving our network. And that's becoming an increasing challenge moving forward. Here's some interesting data from Verizon Business Report around the perspective, the time of the attack relative to the discovery of the attack. We see close to 75% of those that responded said that the attack took seconds or minutes to infiltrate their network. So very, very quickly. On the flip side of that, close to 75% of those attacks took anywhere from weeks, months, or even years to identify the actual source and scope of what's happening. And we see this quite often. We talk about these on our blog and so forth. But ultimately they say the same thing. It's, well, we're not sure we were breached. We think we were. We don't have all the details, but we're looking into it, and we can't really tell you more. And that's kind of code for it's bad. We've definitely been breached, but we don't know how bad, and we don't know what to do. So it's really important that we do all that we can to really close that gap from the time of compromise to the time of discovery, because ultimately time is money, and it's really directly related to the viability of our business. Now, if we step back a little bit and we look at where we are today in our security footprint, if you will, it's safe to say that we've all built a very high, pretty robust wall, if you will, or fortress with a lot of security point products. We've been involved in deploying the new technology that we think is going to be that one tool to prevent the bad things from getting in or the good things from leaving our network. But at the end of the day, these are all prevention or preventative-based technologies based on signatures. And what we're left with is really a picket fence, where the fence may be robust and high, but there are ultimately gaps between these pickets and between these security technologies. So you might be asking, well, why do we do what we do at Solera Networks? From our perspective, we believe that we live in a post-prevention world. We need all of those products that we had on that previous slide. It's important that we turn them on and use them to our fullest, but unfortunately it's still not enough, and that's why we're always in kind of reaction mode and trying to prevent further damage because things have gotten through those gaps that I mentioned. Now, if you're a CISO or if you have to support a CISO, chances are you have had to ask yourself these questions, or you've been asked these questions, and you need to find answers for them after a breach. Things like, who did this to us? How did they do it? If they exploited a vulnerability, what did they exploit? Did our existing security systems miss it? And if so, why did they miss it? And how did they miss it? What systems were affected? Can we be sure that it's not going to happen again? And is it over? These are all very difficult questions. And if you don't have answers to these when you're in front of the press or in front of the board, your answer might be, well, such and such was breached. We don't have all the details. We may have lost up to 1 million records, but we're not sure. Now, ideally, it would be great if you were in this type of a position where you could say, well, actually, our database does include 1 million records, but we do have definitive proof, and we can show with certainty that only 30,000 of those records were actually accessed and extricated from the network. That's a big difference. That's the difference between closing of your business for good or maintaining some level of customer loyalty because you've got the details and you're taking swift, focused action. So it's imperative that you have answers to these tough questions. So what is it that we deliver at Solera Networks? Well, we believe we deliver advanced persistent security that help you easily tell users what to look for and what to look at. It's technology that's always there. It's always on. It's always looking, capturing, indexing, and giving you things like context and insight and visibility to help you see and understand really what to look for and what to look at. So an effective big data security and advanced threat protection solution involves kind of 3 core components that we believe. First of all, there's security visibility. And by security visibility, it's things like full packet capture, being able to capture everything that crosses your network because you can only analyze what you have at your disposal. On top of that, layer 2 through 7 indexing. Because partial analysis or analysis of only metadata in today's environment really isn't sufficient. Add on top of that deep packet inspection so that you know exactly what applications are active and in what way across your network. Simple things, user configurable so that you can customize it to your own security methods and practices. And on top of that, session reconstruction so that you can turn data into something that you can actually recognize and make decisions off of. Next, big data security analytics, and by that, things like situational awareness. With analysis of the data, you can expand your awareness and you can actually see exactly what's going on. Being able to add context to the data that you're able to capture and determine whether or not it's normal or abnormal or dangerous or safe and so forth. Things like visual insight, turning data into something that makes sense so that, I say, like Dilbert's pointy-haired boss, making sure that he could understand exactly what's happening on the network and the nature of an attack. And on top of that, prediction, being able to identify based on data that we know, and kind of infer essentially what's gonna happen based on the data that we know. And then moving on to threat intelligence, things like real-time whitelists and blacklists, because if we know what it looks like, then we should be able to safely let it in or protect against it. And the solution has to, support us across the growing mediums that we have to support out there: social media, mobile, cloud. More and more bring your own device into the organization. It has to be a security solution that can capture data kind of across the board. On top of that, things like sandbox detonation. If you're not sure what it is because of those signature-based tools that we have, and then we have something coming across the network, we're not certain what it is, we should have the ability to put it into a sandbox environment, detonate it, blow it up, and see exactly what it looks like. And then, things like auto-signature generation. If we find something that's bad, then how can we automate the process to prevent it in the future? So just some things kind of in the threat environment, threat intelligence component here. Now, this is really only effective is our ability to integrate with the technologies that we already have. I already mentioned that those technologies are very effective at doing what they do, and we need to support those, and we need to have those turned on. But at the same time, they don't provide us the full content and context and visibility that we need to really make decisions in today's environment. So a solid, big data security intelligence solution needs to include kind of an integration layer to be able to, through an API, integrate so that you can pivot directly from those tools. And anytime those tools deliver an alert, you can go back to essentially capture data from our solution and identify, what happened before, what happened during, what happened after. It should, support a software blade architecture so that I can add different components to it rather than be locked into, a dedicated and kind of proprietary piece of hardware and technology. But it should also support your existing ecosystem and workflow to make sure that those security professionals who are trained in your environment would know how to work with and integrate with that solution. Now, if we do that, what we have is a big data security intelligence analytics for advanced threat protection solution. We can tell users what to look for and what to look at, and it's in an environment that supports a flexible architecture, whether that be on hardware, software, or virtual deployments. It also needs to be able to scale to speeds of today's network, 10 gigabits per second, not only just fitting into a 10 gig network, but also being able to capture losslessly at those speeds, being able to deploy it on virtual appliance or software, and ultimately getting to the point where we're getting closer to a single pane of glass for managing our security environment. And if we do that, we've got an integrated solution. And Gartner analyst Neil McDonald had commented that context-aware and adaptive security will be the only way to securely support the dynamic business and IT infrastructures emerging during the next 10 years. And we do believe that. To be effective, it's got to be a solution that integrates with the existing technology that you have today to protect against the known, but also give you visibility into what we maybe, don't know, the unknown threats. So how do we do what we do? Well, we think of us as the security camera for your network. We're always on, always recording and indexing everything, packets and flows, layers 2 through 7, providing you visibility into what's actually leaving the organization as well as what's coming into the network in the form of malware, and being able to dissect that and understand exactly what that is. Providing you actionable intelligence and that look-back capability, that forensics capability. But on top of that, situational awareness, being able to monitor things in real time and understand exactly what's going on. And on top of that, we do it in an easy, open, easy-to-use platform, integrating with a multitude of security technologies that you already have probably in your environment. So it's really about making sense of the data. Taking the data, and as we gather it, we analyze it, we look for relationships to determine if patterns appear. And we do that by looking at the raw data and analyzing the metadata and applying context to it. And through that context, we can then maybe make some inferences and determine exactly what it is. Is it safe? Is it or is it malicious? In this case, it's malicious. Something from anonymous. But as we gather that, elements, they're not always coherent or revealing, and it's difficult to understand sometimes exactly what's going on. But through that analysis, we can determine the relationship and identify if something is safe. In this case, it's a duck, But those patterns will appear, and we can determine if it's a threat or if it's something that we can safely let into our network. There we go. And how do we do this? We do this through the Solera DeepSee platform. We believe this is the most comprehensive and flexible solution for security intelligence and analytics. It's a common code base that supports a variety of ways to deploy it, whether that be through DeepSee software, flexible and easy to deploy, or through a dedicated DeepSee appliance, which is pre-configured appliance to easily put into your environment, kind of plug and play. And then over on the right, the virtual appliance, a patented virtual appliance technology for, complete visibility, but maximum flexibility because you can deploy it really anywhere within the organization. And if we, with the DeepSee platform, we're able to answer some of these tough questions that we looked at earlier: who, when, where, what, how, and is it over? And these difficult post-breach questions that you need to address, and ultimately then be able to support a variety of use cases, from situational awareness, being able to see exactly what's happening in real time that you maybe wouldn't otherwise see. Incident response, it's kind of like a crime scene investigation. You know that something's happened and you need to respond and you need to investigate and determine the true source and scope of an attack. And there's a whole host of others, data loss monitoring, policy usage compliance, cyber threat detection, things like this that we support through the DeepSee platform. Now, here's a little bit of kind of an architecture of the platform. By deploying the sensors, appliances, whether they be via software, virtual appliance, or dedicated hardware, you're capturing that information. On top of that, we're then indexing, and providing big data security analytics so that you can then, after the fact, go back and identify and uncover and deliver results from all of that captured data. And then on top of that, applying threat intelligence, things like DeepSee reports, geolocation, seeing exactly where the traffic is coming from and where it's going, packet analysis, and a multitude of reports and ways to dissect that information. And moving over, partner integrations. We've got great partnerships with the likes of SourceFire, ArcSight, McAfee, Splunk, FireEye, Palo Alto, many others. But these are tools that you're already familiar with, and we're able to provide context to any of the alerts that these tools deliver. And over on the right, added threat intelligence like reputation services and threat feeds and file analysis to uncover exactly the true nature of files that are crossing your network. And because of that platform, we're then able to support those use cases that we talked about. Well, now I'd like to turn it over to Ajay, but just real quickly, I'd kind of like to put in a plug here for the DeepSee Virtual Appliance trial. You can try the 30-day trial or the free DeepSee Lab Edition. If you just visit soleranetworks.com, you'll find a link off of that. I also encourage you to follow us on some of our social media, and if you have any questions that we're not able to address after the webinar today, feel free to drop us a quick tweet with the hashtag VisionStart at Solera Networks, and we'll do our best to answer any of those questions for you. So with that, I'd like to turn the time over to Ajay for the demo.
Thanks, Alan. Let me share my screen here. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to quickly spend the next 10 minutes to give a quick demo of Solera DeepSee. So on your screen, you should be seeing our DeepSee dashboard, which is a single user interface which kind of presents the big data security intelligence and analytics that we collect, and index and classify. Not only that, I just want to make a point that using the same interface, we can also do provisioning, like the central management and configuration of role-based administration, licensing, and various other system-related activities. So it's kind of important, unique differentiator for us. Everything is done in a single user interface. With that, I'm going to demonstrate the Solera DeepSee in context of the use cases that Alan was talking about, right? So starting with situational awareness, when we speak about situational awareness, what we mean is that you can deploy us throughout your organization and get full security visibility of what's happening in the network. Not only that, we provide kind of the in-depth awareness of what's happening in your network. As you can see in this summary tab, we display all the application groups, web or mail, stuff like that, all the applications themselves, all the files that are traversing the network, and the flow information, IP addresses, and stuff like that. So it's kind of more in-depth knowledge of exactly things that are happening in your network. And for each one of those, we can get more in-depth information when we go into reports. We do collect big data, and by collecting the big data, we index and classify all the data into different metadata containers. So for example, in this case, application. So not only just displaying what applications they are, but we also give more detail, like how many sessions are related to the particular application, amount bytes and things like that. But the granularity of the application classification is very in-depth. We classify up to more than 1,200 applications. As you can see here, it's not only telling that it's a HTTP application, but within HTTP it is Facebook, or Yahoo Messenger, or in UDP it's NetBIOS and things like that. So literally all the way up to layer 7, the applications are classified. So this is one example. You can get much more in-depth information of flow. For example, the flow information and things like that, which I'm not going to go into right now. But again, as part of the situational awareness, not only the width but also complete in-depth information you can gain of what's happening in your network. Similarly, we also give a geolocation of all the communications that are happening in your network. For example, I'm here in Mountain View, so you see some activity there. But also, it's kind of cool in the sense that if you see a communication that's going to a place that for your enterprise is not approved, then you can quickly spot that. And since we display the IP addresses, you can quickly block those communications immediately. And in fact, we are actually improving this feature in the next release where this is going to be in real time. It's going to be updated in real time live with direct drill downs into exact user, exact session, and things like that. So very powerful again to gain full situational awareness. I just want to quickly show this. This will show the back end of things, how it works, but also kind of place the continuous monitoring aspect of what Solera DeepSee does. Basically, Solera DeepSee deployments have variety of interfaces, right? 10 gig or 1 gig. Here you're seeing 1 gig links. And it's as simple as start capture. That's all you need to do as a user. And we continuously monitor or continuously capture all the packets that are attached to this particular link, for example. So that's kind of the continuous monitoring, which is like 24/7 non-stop monitoring of the activity on the network, similar to a security camera. Alan was pointing about that we integrate with a bunch of different industry-leading security providers like next generation firewall, IPS, SIM, and stuff like that. Here, I just want to show an example of integration with SourceFire IPS. This is SourceFire Defense Center. I pulled out this event, which is categorized as high priority, and it's displaying a few parameters with IP addresses, ports, the rule that triggered this particular event, and we can see that this event is trying to gain user privilege access. So if we want to know more information about this event, we can simply click on this analyze with Solera DeepSee here, and that will simply pivot us into the DeepSee dashboard. And as you can see here, the SourceFire Defense Center sent these parameters into what we call a path bar, this one, of DeepSee dashboard. So this kind of narrows the search of what we're looking for. Unlike here, where we are displaying pretty much all the applications that we see, this one basically, because we are only looking at a certain parameters, we are seeing activity related to those parameters. So if you think of all the data that we collect as a haystack, which we have, these are the tools that are like the magnifying glass within the haze to see the needle within the haystack. So we are seeing a bunch of different associated files, for example, application related to these parameters. And the IP address here is a private IP address, so we can drill down with any of these parameters further down to see what's happening. But let's see what is associated to this IP address, because it is a private IP address and it belongs to our network. So we want to know what is happening with that particular IP address, and you can see all the activity related to this specific IP address, all the applications, all the file names, again, all the IP addresses that this particular user is communicating with are displayed. So we can drill down to any of those to get much more detail. But let's go to the extractions and and see what is happening with this IP address. Extractions is actually very powerful and a key differentiator for Solera DeepSee dashboard, where it displays events in a chronological order as they happen in real time. So here you can see 1201, 1202. So it's in a chronological order of all the events that this particular user has done in this given time frame. So looking at that user went to Google and did a search on Seton Youth Shelters. Did looks like some map searching, and then actually went and visited that website for that organization. And then we are seeing a bunch of PHP script that got executed here. So by simply clicking on this, we can expand that. Since this is the moment when looks like things went wrong, because instead of looking at other HTML pages, we got a bunch of PHP script. So using DeepSee, we can preview of what the user saw exactly. Looks like the user got presented a blank page, but we can also go back, or we can and see what actually transpired in the back end. It looks like the user got redirected to a different website, not that particular organization's website. And this is a malicious website. It's a well-known malicious website. And then we saw all this PHP script. So this is a point of compromise. And any of this PHP script could have caused, the event that we saw here. So looks like this user got definitely infected, and there could be, now we can look at the amount of damage that has been done, right? And here, by simply clicking, we can see all the, as I was saying before, kind of the magnifying glass to look for the needle in the haystack. We can look at any type of things that are associated to this particular user. Let's take a look at the file type. So these are all the files that are associated to this particular user, and let's focus on DOS executable. That's usually DOS executables are major carriers of malware, and as you can see, there are a bunch of them here. Again, we can expand that. It's presented as unknown. DeepSee platform detected it as a DOS executable, and we can, analyze it as PCAP. We can do as part of the advanced malware detection. We can do our reputation services lookups and get information from various reputation vendors to figure out what that is. So so we can continue to do this investigation to perform appropriate remediation actions. But just as an example, that's kind of the security incident response, and also kind of to detect the advanced malware that can transpire within the network from a given intrusion event, right? So as part of the cyber threat detection, DeepSea platform comes what we call as favorites, like other security systems may call them objects, which are actually eventually used to create rules. So here you can see there are various objects we can import, or we can create new ones, or we can edit the existing ones. So for example here, black hole exploit file names. So as you can see, we have created all this PHP related files that could be malicious. Again, similarly, exploit with PDF associated files, botnet activity, related activity. I think I missed that. So there are a lot of them. Top known attackers, and we can use that to create rule extractions, file extractions. We can do real-time file extractions, which can later be sent to a sandbox to do malware analysis. Non-standard communications, right? So using those, we can create actions, and again, other security systems may call them rules. So for example, here is a rule where for non-standard communications, if DeepSee sees any non-standard communications within your network, send us an alert. Again, that rule can be edited within the DeepSee dashboard, assign some criticality to it, and you can set the email frequency, excuse me, and you can also add more favorites or remove some of them that may not be valid anymore, right? So kind of real-time advanced threat detection, if you will, using the DeepSea platform. As I was showing before, we integrate with a variety of reputation providers. Bit9 kind of will tell you if a particular file is bad or good. FireEye, which does a sandbox detonation. Same thing with Lastline. So all of these can be used, to gain reputation services and to kind of do the advanced threat detection, and also using security incident response to perform mitigation activities. We're almost running out of time, but I just want to quickly show, the extractions is actually really, really powerful. We can fully reconstruct emails. As here, I'm just showing all the emails only. And again, you can use this to pinpoint a particular user or specific email address to get full email details. Again, you can preview that whole email, All the attachments are also reconstructed. Here, let's do a quick preview so you can see, you can actually read the complete email. And this is kind of useful in data loss analysis. If you know that your sensitive data has left your organization, and you can, email is one of the common medium, right? So you can come back here and reconstruct all the emails specific to that event and see exactly what happened and exactly which documents have left your organization. Same thing with instant messaging. You can reconstruct an entire instant message and look at all the chat that has occurred to investigate any data loss incidents or policy violations. Talking about policy violations, typically policy stakeholders are non-technical uh, personnel. So what we provide is called a media panel, where we reconstruct images that are traversing the network. So if a HR professional is investigating an inappropriate behavior, they can simply go to a particular image and look at the IP address that is associated to that image. Again, they can do the drill down and identify the users that are associated to that particular activity. On that note, I'm going to stop, and we can spend a couple of minutes to take any questions you may have.
Maybe a few questions here, Ajay. Common one that we see here is, how many days of storage can you keep on a particular appliance? I mean, that obviously can vary, but maybe you can comment a little bit on that, Ajay.
Yeah, sure. That's a good question, actually. Obviously, we collect a lot of data, as I was showing here, continuous monitoring. We have different form factors of where we can deploy DeepSee. A lot of the turnkey appliances that Solera provides, they can go up to 200 terabytes on a single appliance. And similarly, our virtual appliance or virtual machine for DeepSee can go up to 10 terabytes. And all of these can be expanded because we supply additional storage modules which are 20 terabytes each. Again, it depends on every organization. It depends on the speed, amount of traffic that you are seeing on your links. Typically our customers, they want to go back in time for up to 2 weeks to do investigation or do incident response. And depending on the speed, you'll buy the storage. 20 terabytes of storage typically in most of the medium-sized organizations can take you back up to a week.
Very good. Let's see, question here. Do you work on 10 gigabit networks? Actually, I think you kind of addressed that. You're kind of even showing the different interfaces, and you mentioned that, yes, in fact, we do work on 10 gig interfaces. What about alerting capabilities? Do you have alerting capabilities? You might have briefly touched upon that in your demo.
Yeah, just a quick note on the 10 gig. We do work on 10 gig, and we actually have the ability to capture at full line rate of 10 gig, and which was certified by a third party called ESG. There's a summary report on our website. Please go there and check it out. It's a very detailed, nice report. And as far as alerting, we did mention a little bit. So based on actions, we send alerts, and for example, here we can alert, and you can also look at all the alerts that are in your system, and you can actually drill down on each one of those alerts, go into DeepSee report, and do kind of further investigation of every alert. Right? In this case, it's saying no packet data found, but in general, that's the idea. Oh, these are just check. But yeah, certainly we can do alerts, and you can also do further drill downs on each one of them.
Very good. Maybe one final question here. Can Solera solution analyze data from other sources, maybe other captures?
Oh, very good question. Since we provide such a detailed reporting and extractions, a lot of our customers use PCAPs that are captured from other devices, and they import here, and they use our Solera DeepSee dashboard to analyze it. For example, we kind of captured this is a PCAP from one of our customers who had this incident in the network. So we imported that, and that's what I demonstrated to you guys before. So this is a PCAP. All I can do is, it's as simple as just clicking here, view this import in DeepSee, and it will send that the entire PCAP into DeepSee platform. You remember this server, correct? This IP address, and again, all the applications that are associated to that PCAP, everything is shown, hopefully including the extractions as well, reports, things like that.
Well, very good, Ajay. I think that's about the amount of the questions that we've got here. Unless there's any others, I'd like to thank everybody for participating with us in the webinar today. Hopefully we're able to answer your questions. Again, if you've got any other questions, feel free to drop us a tweet, hashtag VisionStart at Solera Networks, Twitter. We'll be more than happy to address that for you. So thanks again, and I hope everybody has a great day.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Thanks everyone.